Did you know that your Dataverse environment now also comes with an MCP server out of the box? It has amazing capabilities and you should really know how to utilize it. So let's jump in and have a look. So I just started out blank with an agent called Joe, and the purpose of this is to just maintain my customer records. Now, it takes a while just for this to build all of this out. So when you see here now, it should assist users in managing and maintaining accounts and context efficiently. Okay, that's primarily what it should do. It's going to be using what's called the Dataverse MCP. What I'll do is I go into my tools and I'll add the Dataverse MCP server. So we'll go to Models Context Protocol, and then we'll add the Dataverse MCP server. I already have a connection. If you don't have that, you'll create that, and then we'll add and configure it. Once that is added, what it will do, it will go out and promptly call the Dataverse to get all of the, let's say, the tools, or the tools name that this MCP server has access to. And let's dissect it because it is important to understand what it has access to and what it can do. So on the top here, the three first ones are basically the read capabilities, right? It can list all the tables. So what tables do we have? This is why it's important to add metadata to the tables. And when you create new tables, you do have to, or you should go in and define well what the tables have. There's also a SQL schema definition where it can actually describe how it relates to other tables and so on. Then you have the read query. This is where it actually create or reads the data. So it will create a SQL select statement against Dataverse, and then it will kind of use filters and joins and aggregations and everything to get the query that we need. So just imagine that this is a tool. And even if we do the prompting properly, we can use this to properly guide it to do specifically what it wanted to do. Even if you want to do aggregates or cross-table lookups, we can make sure that we use this read query to kind of tailor it to do that. And we'll do that through prompting. The next three tables are, you should be really careful about these. And you see here on top, it will turn on all of these, and we'll just untick this because we do want to turn these off. If you don't want to, let's say, make a designer and you want it to be able to explore and create and change the definitions of the tables and stuff like that on the fly, you definitely want to just make sure remove all of these. Now, we are also able to create, update, and delete records. So this is the CRUD, like the CRUD, here they are. Then it comes into also the ability to list knowledge sources and retrieve knowledge. So these are the two added ones that you would have to do when it works together with knowledge sources and the capabilities that's inside of Dataverse to do that. You have the ability to go out and query that as well. Not often, probably not many times if you're using Dataverse, you will use that if you're building applications, but sometimes for customer service or internal support organizations, ITSM, and so on, you might want to have these turned on if you need to have that data. This means that we've now created an ability to list all the tables, describe them in context of each other, read data, create new data, update the current data that's in there, and then also delete data inside of Dataverse. All right, so we'll click save, and then we have our MCP server actually built in. All right, so we do have our agent basically to update and do all these things. Let's try it out and see what it can do. So create a new account for Forest Wholesale. The first thing you want to do as well when you trigger these, it will actually ask for the connection. So this is just authentication where you kind of do that pass through. You make sure that it's authenticated. You do it once, and then it will, you see, it will go out and it will retrieve the tools that you've defined and the ones that it should have access to. And so now it goes in, creates an account for Forest Wholesales, and there you go. Now, there are a bunch of different places where you can get customer information as well. You can use, for instance, the ability to search public websites to find information. Let's turn that on. And then we can probably get, let's see. Let's do Virgin. So now it goes out and sees like there's no information inside of my model context protocol, or it doesn't find anything there. Now it goes out and finds information about Virgin Atlantic. Now it did an actually web search to find this, right? What I can do now is just create them, meaning Virgin Atlantic, as an account. So what it will do now is that it will pick out all of this information. So that's how easy it is, right? We can actually use information online to find information about what we want to create. And then now we just added the MCP, and now it's actually able to do that. So let's go in and ask some questions about this. I would say list my 2 latest accounts. And hopefully it should understand the context of this, look at when it was created, then take a filter, view it by 2, reads top 2 from accounts sorted by created on. So it will actually go in and do these complex queries. And as you can see, I actually have 2 records in here, Virgin Atlantic and Forest Wholesales. Now I can go in and do updates on this. So add an address to Forest Wholesales. Let me try Norwegian address for this. Now it should do an upsert. So it does an update record for this record, and now the address is now updated. And I can, for instance, add a contextual data point to this as well. So add a contact for Forest Wholesales. This one. So let's see if it can do that. I actually haven't tried this before, so it's be interesting to see if it does that. Now it goes in, finds the table, then selects the actual Forest Wholesales, goes in, creates a new record, and now I have a new record actually. Now let's have a look if we can actually list some of the information in here as well and see if it understands the context. So what I'll do is list the contacts for Forest Wholesales. And you see here it actually listed the contact, and it also says that there's missing information like the telephone number. It actually didn't capture that. So let's add the telephone number. Add the telephone number plus 47 90 90 90 90. His title is ERP Magician. Let's see if it can do that. And you can see here that it actually went in and updated the information. So we're all good, and that's how you should actually work with it. Now, just to kind of just summarize this, it is important that you will go in and for the Dataverse MCP server, make sure that you do have information or limit the access to what it can do. If it was missing some information, it might have actually created or updated the customer table to add some information about this thing that it wasn't sure that it found a field about. Maybe if you use naming conventions or duplications of terms or something like that, it will actually go in and do some damage or maybe some correction to your database, however you want to look at it. But that is super important. And I just wanted to let you know that. So that's how you can actually go in and work with the MCP server. Now you can make these agentic workloads automatic by using triggers. And so you can actually build a fully agentic workload in the backend. And there you go.